What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. We're back. Big win from the Lions in Week 10. They win by 22. They rout the Commanders. They get to 6-3. We're going to get into all that. Scott, my man, how the hell are you?
Good. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Recording from the kitchen today. The basement is in shambles because didn't get the sprinkler winterized in time, and we're paying for it. So
pathetic.
Pathetic. Couldn't coach football. Just it's a nightmare of a scenario. But most of the basement is good, and we're good. So office is good. It's just there's things in there right now where I can't record. So we're here, no microphone, just doing it the old-fashioned way. Hopefully, I sound okay. I know we look
good. Good.
So we're good. But let's dive in. Week 10, Dan Campbell is the storyline here. The offense is the storyline. The Lions take it over, or Dan Campbell takes over the Lions offense. And you can call it a soft firing. You can call it a mutual agreement. You can call it whatever you'd like, but it was a change that needed to happen for the Lions offense if they wanted to get the most out of their offense. I think it shows with a big 44-point showing, 550-plus yards from this offense, the best they've looked all season, and Dan Campbell was calling the plays. Huge game, big win, 6-3, atop of the NFC North after the Eagles beat the Packers. And we'll get into the Eagles in our Week 11 preview for Sunday Night Football. But let's talk the offense. Let's talk Week 10. What were some takeaways? What did you think of the change? How are you feeling after one game with Dan Campbell calling plays?
I mean, it's great. You know, I think that their offense looked pretty dynamic. Everything that we saw for the last couple of years, where when they were playing at their strengths, it was getting rid of the ball quickly. It was hitting players in stride, letting them generate yards after catch. Lots of crossing routes. There was a lot of play designs and things where it wasn't as predictable as what they were going to do. It wasn't so much, hey, we're in 12 personnel and we're running kind of stuff. So I liked seeing all that stuff. It just makes me wonder what it's been like the last couple of weeks inside that building and how much frustration there was from the players on offense, knowing this is what it looked like on Sunday, and this is what it looked like a short 7 days ago. I wonder what the vibe was, in and around what was happening, and whether that's repairable. I don't know. I mean, I have some thoughts in and around. If you're going to struggle playing calls the way he was, you probably shouldn't be coming out and talking in the media the way he did last week.
Yes.
So
well, and I think that's where I think, maybe we should have read between the lines a little bit that maybe a change was coming because of how he responded to certain things. It just felt like he was a little salty. And he made some comments like, that's up to the head coach type of deal. And he didn't really question his scheme. He more so questioned the blocking and the protection and what the offensive line was doing. And I just felt like you don't go out in public and bash your front five. You do that in private. You do that in the film room. You have that conversation on the practice field, whatever. And you scheme up ways to make it better and make it improved. And I think that's what Campbell and kind of this new look and refreshing vibe to the offense that it is. They came out. There was one play that I clipped on the opening drive. They came out with the pony personnel, which was, two running backs out of the shotgun, and Gibbs flares to the flat, and Montgomery inserts and picks up a blitz. And it was just a nice wrinkle to get the ball out quickly, move the football down the field. And I think that's the thing. Like, Jared Goff doesn't need 9 or 10 yards for every single throw. I think it's fine to get the ball out in 4 to 5 yards and let just the rhythm go, and it'll create explosives down the field as we saw. It'll allow guys like Jameson Williams to run after the catch, whether it be shallow crossers or the dig route or St. Brown with the slant or St. Brown on the touchdown off the levels concept, you name it, they're able to do it. You just got to be able to get this offense going in rhythm. And I think that's what this game was about, finding the rhythm, what we're good at. And I think Dan Campbell has a very good idea of what they're good at, what they're not.
Yeah.
And I think that's the benefit. Like, I think 97 won the ticket. Jim Costa might have pulled the number earlier this week when I was listening in the morning. I think he tweeted it out as well on his Twitter page, but he mentioned something like out of 32 teams in the NFL, 18 of head coaches call offense or defense, and 14 of the 18 call the offense. So it's not like it's a foreign thing that it's frowned upon that your head coach is calling your offense in the NFL. Matt LaFleur does it. Doesn't really do a great job with it sometimes, but that's neither here nor there. Well, that's conversation for Thanksgiving, right? It's one of these things, though, where I feel very comfortable with Dan Campbell calling the plays. I think there's an energy to him. There's that confidence. And when he's making that play call, I think it's him showing like, hey, he believes in us to go for it here in this scenario at 4th and 2. This is the play that he's drawing up for us. Let's not let him down. Yeah. And I think it's just different when your head coach is calling the plays or your offensive coordinator. I think the big thing is they're on the field. The offensive coordinator in the box thing is, I just have never been a fan of it. I don't like it. And the fact that John Morton was doing that, I think, is why at times it came out a little flat. I don't know if I'm wrong in saying that, but that's what I feel with the offense the weeks prior to this one.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think that there were times when they came out detached from their own inabilities to do things, right? Like, and I think that's, in some ways, that's one of the most important things that a coach can do, is the self-scouting thing. And I think it's as simple as this, is we saw for weeks them try to push a player like Jahmyr down the field and run really deep concepts. And we saw their inability to get him the ball. And then very quickly, super simple, what is the most dynamic he's looked all season? Which week? The week where they threw really shallow crossing routes. You know, like, none of those throws they hit him with were deep shots down the field. They didn't need to be, but he's so dynamic in his movement abilities, and his speed's just ridiculous, that if you just get the ball with him it's the idea of forcing a defense to maybe take a little step to their right or left, whatever it is, and have him going the other way and hitting him in stride in motion. It's uncoverable.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just so much more simpler to design and execute than it is to force a throw 20, 30 yards down the field. It just is.
Yeah.
Now I think we're going to see some of that stuff, the over routes and some of those other things working, because the short and intermediate stuff is so dangerous. But it just was surprising and kind of interesting to see. All right, for weeks they've been really forcing him to go very vertical and inefficient as can be. Can't get the ball to him. And here we are in a week where Campbell takes over, and it's just crossing routes, super shallow crossing routes where he's like, what was he, 6 for like 120 range?
Yeah, 6 for 119.
Yeah, so it's like, you don't have to push the ball down the field to get chunk plays out of him. You just don't.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the thing is too, like, it felt like for weeks prior, and I know there was still production, right? Like, he played very well against the Chiefs, and there's been good games for him. I mean, out of the last 4 games, he's scored 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Like, he's really starting to heat up, and the usage is starting to get there. But it just felt like prior to this week against the Commanders, a lot of his touches were manufactured. It was the wide receiver screen or the forced deep shot where he runs past the defender and trying to push it down the field. And if he wasn't doing that, it was a decoy where he was just running verticals, or he's running berry routes and running into opposite safeties to try to, keep them in the middle of the field or, to one half of the field, whatever the case may be. And that's opening up things for Laporta, St. Brown, or whoever. But it felt like this offense was able to sustain a rhythm and everybody got involved. And you saw it early too. Like, David Montgomery had 4 touches on the opening drive. Like, that hasn't happened, I don't think, all season. Yep. So he was being utilized in the passing game, whether he was blitzing or picking up blitzers, or he was, going out for a route, or he was getting, a handoff on duo or power or whatever they were calling. I thought it was really impressive. One thing I really liked was the way that the Lions would shift into certain formations. One of their touchdowns was a counter play where they shifted from shotgun to under center, and the tight end went into the backfield, and they ran just traditional counter, and they secured some of their blocks. It was all good. One of the backside players ended up almost making the tackle, but Gibbs shakes it, who also, by the way, Gibbs is so strong. He's stronger than anybody, I think, gives him credit for. Like, he just does not go down. And then he uses his speed out in space, and they push him into the end zone for like 5 or 6 yards. And it was like we weren't getting that going into this game, and we did. So clearly there's something clicking. And I think that's the positive thing. And one last thing on Jameson Williams. It wasn't like the success came on the first drive. It came throughout the entire game. Late in the third quarter, he got back-to-back plays where he, ran that dig route and scored. It was all happening later too. So I think it just goes to show, like, everybody's going to get a piece of the pie throughout the course of the game moving forward. And everything is really aligning to be successful for the second half of the season. And I think it's coming at the right time because they've got big games, as we've talked about. The Rams, the Eagles, the Packers, the Vikings. You name it. They've got big games in the division that they've got to win. And they need these guys to be stepping up and doing what they need to be doing. Switching gears from offense, unless you've got anything to add, switching over to the defense, Brian Branch played pretty well. Looks like he, maybe coming out of his shell a little bit, hasn't really played exactly what we thought he would be. And Aiden Hutchinson continues to, do his thing. But man, Jack Campbell, just what a game by him. He continues to stick in the run game. He is the clear communicator of that defense. I'm loving what I'm seeing there. But what were some takeaways for you defensively? I know I kind of hit on 3 different players, but what were your takeaways defensively?
Kind of that. I think that they gave up some stuff to the Washington offense, but that's sort of the nature of things when you score 40 plus. It's hard, it's hard to keep everything dialed in, right? So, everybody's talking about Lopez, and he's been fine. There's what's going on with Tyleik Williams. I'm not really sure what to make of what's happening there. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what's really going on there. I don't know if he's banged up, if there's something happening where he's just not seeing a lot of the field. I don't know. But yeah, Hutch is Hutch. This is a huge week for him. It's not necessarily, Mailata and Lane Johnson. Those guys are tough, man. So it's going to be tough for him to win one-on-ones against those guys. But this game, obviously we'll get there with the Philly stuff. But the Hutch thing, I think it's the 3 guys that you mentioned. I think it's Campbell. It's the 3 levels too. It's Campbell, Branch, and Hutch. And then when does Kirby Joseph get back? What's happening with him? I think it's going a little slower than they would have preferred as far as his knee goes. Don't know what's happening with Terrion Arnold either. I think I would like to talk about how good Arnold has looked in limited time because of some of the injuries he's dealing with, whether it's a shoulder or the pack or whatever that was, and now it's a concussion. And we're recording early enough in the week that we don't have any idea what the injury stuff looks like as far as in week 11. But the defense looks really good. There isn't a ton to say about that particular matchup. It was Mariota and a bunch of players who,
right. No Terry McLaurin, none of that. Yeah. But big picture, we got everything we wanted to see out of that matchup because of what the offense looked like. Yeah. And I think the big thing with the defense is wouldn't mind seeing a couple more takeaways. There's just been a couple instances this year. I think one of the big things is just they haven't been able to get some of those turnovers, but they've been getting in the spots and they've been doing what they need to be doing. Like, to your point, Terrion Arnold has played really well since being back, and really just throughout the course of the season, he's played much better than he did last season up to this point. He's got to stay healthy. We know he dealt with like the shoulder pack and now the concussion. We'll see. But yeah, the Tyleek thing is really interesting. That was where I was going to go back to, because fortunately they've got Roy Lopez stepping up. They've got Aleem McNeil and they've got DJ Reader. And I think that's really what it boils down to for Tyleek is like, we don't need to force you into situations to where maybe we're not going to get that production because we've got Aleem back and we've got Reader. We're gonna, hang on to those guys and push those guys, and you're going to learn and you're going to get your reps.
Maybe that's all it is. I mean, and that's fair. It is. It's fair.
Yeah, and just the downside is he's only played 17 snaps in 2 games, and it's like I do get the mindset of like getting time to get yourself acclimated, learning the verbiage of the defense and learning what you're seeing from the offense, but you also need reps in live time, and that's important because I don't know if Reader will be back beyond this season. He's on the last year of the deal, and it's one of those things where if he's going to be the guy next year, it would be nice to get those reps now. But at the same time, he got a lot of reps early in the year. So maybe it's one of those where they ease him off a little bit. And then as we get to this, the last month of the season, maybe he really gets a big push. But a lot of positives with the defense. I mean, they didn't give up a ton of yards. I know they gave up 22 points, but I think they're really clicking. And I think that they've got an opportunity to really prove a lot of people wrong. Yeah. And make a lot of people believe what we think that this team can be, a Super Bowl contending team, but also just a team that can dominate on both sides of the football. And it's a big spot for Calvin Shepard because I know the Philly defense or offense has not necessarily clicked. And if you're cool that we can move on to it.
Oh yeah.
The Sunday night preview. I don't think the Eagle offense has been clicking, but you gotta account for all their dudes because they've got them. Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon, Jalen Hurts. The tush push is coming. Things are coming that you're not going to be able to stop. But how much can you minimize? How much can you neutralize this team? What are we looking for in this preview with the Eagles? What are some key things that you're looking for?
With the Eagles, it's always the trenches, both sides. So it strikes me. So if we start with the Lions on offense, they're going to have their hands full with that defensive line and with specifically the linebackers. Those guys just run and, they're gonna bring pressure. The linebackers are so. It's one of the things that I was happiest about last week was they got away from burying Gibbs and forcing him to take on A-gap blitzers. And instead of that, they went with the 21 personnel like you were talking about and allowed Montgomery to pick up some of that stuff and let Gibbs do what he's supposed to be out there for, which is get him into space and, make plays. This week is going to be super interesting in terms of how the Lions offensive line responds and what they decide they want to do on offense against a very aggressive attacking defense.
Mm-hmm.
Can they, get on top of Philly in some ways and get things on offense, at least get things rolling in the right direction. And the most important thing is to keep Goff comfortable and in rhythm. It's everything you said about what the offense looked like last week, which was just rhythm, and we haven't seen that for a while. So it makes me very hopeful that Campbell takes over and they look as good as they looked instantly, right? And now you really need to dial that stuff up against this defense and against everything that they're gonna all the challenges they present. What do you think about Philly's defense and the things they do?
Yeah, I mean, this is a defense that, like you said, they're aggressive. They're going to attack you. They're going to blitz. They've kind of got this bend, don't break mindset. And they get after it. I mean, they're going to bring some pressure, and I would have to imagine that pressure will get home at times. I'm hopeful it's not going to be 4 or 5 times like it was against Minnesota. But if you can minimize that, you're doing all right. I think the big tell will be that opening drive. The Lions have scored points on every single opening drive but 2 games this year, and it was the Cleveland game in Green Bay. And if you come out and you struggle on that opening drive, I think it's going to cause some panic, and I think it's going to put some pressure on your offense in itself. Not saying that those guys are going to hit the panic button or anything like that. They just seem like a calm, cool, collected group of players that never really seem to teeter one way or the other based off of emotions or how the game is going. But when they come out and they score right off the rip, one, you're getting points right away. but also you're putting pressure on Vic Fangio and his defense to make adjustments in those things. But also, I think the Lions showed last week that they can adjust and that when they do, good things are going to happen. So I think if they can go out and score, and then if some adjustments are made and things are kind of consistent from there, I think it's a real positive that this is going to be a game that they can win. And it's a game that they certainly can win regardless on paper. But just seeing it live time on Sunday night, that's something that I'm going to be hopeful for. But I think the biggest thing is just how can the offensive line stay upright to keep Goff upright?
Yeah.
Glasgow's going to have his hands full, right? Jordan Davis is going to be across from him.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are going to get after it. And, Brandon Graham is back. They brought him back. What type of role will he have? I know he's not necessarily the player that he once was, but this is a Philly defense that they've got dudes, and they're going to make it tough to get guys open. Jamison Williams is going to have to fight.
Jalen Phillips too, so they got some edge presence, and they got a lot going on that defense, but
yeah. And then you've got Cooper DeJean, and you've got, Quinyon Mitchell. I know he went down a little bit in the Packer game, but I believe he came back. But again, there's not much going on in the middle of the week right now for injuries. We won't know really until Thursday. But I think that this is a game where if they stick to the ground game, they're able to establish that. They throw, play action a little bit more. I believe the Lions averaged about 8 or 9 throws on play action prior to last week. Last week, I think they were close to 18. Yeah. So they doubled it. So I think that's going to be the thing. How much play action are we going to see? But also, can they get a quick passing game going like they've been? I mean, they showed it against the Commanders. They attacked the middle of the field. I'm going to assume that Philly adjusts and they take away some of the middle of the field. So you're going to have to get the ball out quickly to the flats, quick outs, those types of things. I think that would be a real positive for this offense if they can go that route with the offense. So I don't know what else, I can really add other than it's going to be a hell of a game. Dan Campbell's already alluded that it's going to be a heavyweight fight.
Oh yeah. It's the fact that this is on Sunday night and it's a middle of the season heavyweight bout like it is. This is going to be a fascinating game.
It is. I mean, and I think it's going to be one of those where it comes down to probably the last possession. I would be surprised if one team blew the other team out. I just would. Yeah, me too. Love to see it if the Lions did it. I think it would be a statement at this point in the year. Yeah. But, and crazier things have happened. I mean, the Lions can certainly do just about anything, I think, at any given time on either side of the football. So it's going to be just a great game. Campbell has already said he's going to be calling the offense again. And I don't see any way John Morton gets that job back. I just don't see it.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough to see that happening with the abruptness. And again, I'm only saying it's abrupt because we aren't present to how this had gone the last couple of weeks. My guess is that behind the scenes, it wasn't abrupt.
Yeah.
This had been coming, but the frustration that we all had watching the Minnesota matchup and just how stagnant and stuck they were in repeating the things that just weren't working over and over again. That is not what this offense has been, right? So, I think one of the most optimistic things about last week was that they found success immediately in and around the things that worked last year, right? So I'm with you. I think it's tough to see a scenario where he does take the play calling back from Dan Campbell. I think it's a testament to Dan Campbell too that there's this perception around that he is
a bonehead,
kind of, and I think he plays that up. But he's a very creative, smart offensive mind. Yeah. And as long as he's here and involved in things, and I understand how that sounds because he was involved in bringing John Morton here, so he has to own some of that too. But in the end, you made a change in week 10, and that to me does nothing but creates significant positives for your offense going forward. I'm really interested to see what they look like against the Eagles on the road on Sunday night.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it. Dan Campbell is getting, back-to-back games on the road calling the plays. And that's just not an easy thing to do. You get to the 15-second mark to get your play calls in. And Amon-Ra St. Brown revealed on their podcast, the St. Brown podcast, that when Jamo had that one that went for either the big gain or the touchdown, it was St. Brown said Dan was fired up, not because of the play call, but because he didn't get it all the way in. But Jared Goff just remembered it. And Goff doesn't wear a wristband, and it's all up here for him. So, I think that this team is a well-oiled machine for the most part. They still have some kinks that they've got to work out. There's going to be times where it doesn't go right, but it's a statement game. Like we've been saying, it's a heavyweight bout, and it's going to be a collaborative effort for this offense to keep this success going. And I think that the whole staff acknowledges that. And I think John Morton is embracing that as well. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, we're not behind closed doors, but it sure felt like it because he was up in the box and maybe he wasn't always calling a play or whatever the case may be, but he was looking at his play sheet. He was trying to find advantages for Dan Campbell in the offense. And I think everybody involved, I think it's going to bring this team together. And I think that's maybe what they really needed. I'm not saying that they were all, being individuals or anything like that, but it just kind of it just feels different. And I don't know what it is. It feels kind of like last year again, in a sense. And it looked that way with the way things were being ran, whether you were running duo, you were running exit motions, you were, there were times that they would fake the jet sweep to Gibbs and give it to Montgomery. Like there were a lot of different wrinkles within the offense, and we saw Teslaw get involved. We saw Raymond get involved. So there's a beauty to everything that was going on with what.
But at the heart of it isn't, to me, that it just strikes me that at the heart of it, it was them tapping into what makes Jared Goff go and what makes him comfortable, right? And I can't say that that's how it's felt for a while.
Yeah,
and immediately, like that fast, they're right back to doing things that he's really good at, and it doesn't surprise me that he and Campbell are almost like, sharing a brain kind of thing as far as the way they see the game and what they want to do. It doesn't surprise me that it does surprise me, I guess, in some ways, but it shouldn't it comes back, so fast. It makes me both intrigued and excited to see what Sunday night's going to look like, but very hopeful too.
Yeah. No, 100%. One last thing I'll add, the quick passing game really got going for Detroit. And I only know that simply because we rewatched the film and all that stuff, but Next Gen Stats had some stuff after the game. And while the Commanders pass rush was very minimal for the most part, they didn't get a ton of pressures, but to what they did when they would rush the passer, Goff on quick passes, so anything under 2.5 seconds, which is pretty much what he's been averaging all season long. Commanders pass rush by throwing. Goff responded to the Commanders pass rush by throwing quick passes under 2.5 seconds on 48.5% of his attempts, completing 14 of 16 such passes for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the 5th most of any quarterback this season. Things that we've been talking about. Let's not have them drop back 5 or 7 steps, going off play action or not, whatever. Having them stare down the barrel, waiting for somebody to get open because they're running a 13 or 15-yard dig route. Like, get it out quickly, shallow cross, boom. Have a quick hitch route or an OTB route from Sam Laporta and be wide open on 3rd down. And get the ball on the flare route to Gibbs. Not this manufactured screen, wide receiver screen. Just, I loved the control of the offense, and I think it's a big positive for what's to come. So Sunday Night Football, Eagles, Lions, Week 11. We don't do predictions on this show if you're new here. We just don't. We've been cursed since the Ravens game whenever we do them, so we just have not. And not the Ravens game this year. We're talking Ravens several years ago. But key player to watch on offense, key player to watch on defense. We'll start on the offensive side of the football. So many moving parts here because there's been, a lot of great pieces this past week. But do you have anybody in particular? I can go first if you need to. Whatever.
We may end up picking the same guy, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to drive the offense this week. He needs to be 8-9 catch, 120-yard, 1 touchdown, kind of player. Specifically into the middle of the field, the digs, the stuff where Goff is comfortable. But he is I think that we can all recognize that in the huge games that the Lions have played over the last several years, it is always Amon-Ra St. Brown who sort of pulls them through. He's going to have to do it again on Sunday night. So, I mean, I realize that's not the greatest prediction it's the easiest one to predict. Maybe that's why I'm doing it. But like he needs to be their dude. I know Gibbs is too, but they're gonna be in situations where it's gonna be third and somewhat uncomfortable. We know this. Mm-hmm. And he's always the guy that sort of pulls them through those things. So that's for me, that's who I'm thinking has to be, spectacular on Sunday night.
I love it. I think he can certainly be spectacular. The player I'm going to go with is David Montgomery. And I say that because he had a second highest total on the season for touches with 16 total touches this past Sunday against the Commanders. I think he's a tone setter. I've said it time and time again. He is kind of the engine to this offense. When he's going, they're going. And the fact that they used him early and often, and there was a lot of interchanging between him and Gibbs, I would love to see the first series, not Gibbs going out there. I would love to see Montgomery, and it's Montgomery that gets 6 or 7 touches on that opening drive, and Gibbs gets 2 or 3, and then Gibbs comes out for the next one. I think you got to wear this defense down because they're physical, they're fast, they fly around. And I don't think you want to go speed for speed. I think you want to just try to impose your will on them the best that you can. I think Montgomery can help do that. Would love to see it. I don't know what the offensive line rotation is going to look like this week. Is it going to be Cologne going to center and Glasgow to left guard? I don't know how they feel about Awasika.
I thought he was fine.
I thought he was fine.
Whole different world this week.
Exactly. So I just wonder, do they change things up? Is there a little bit of a rotation on that left side at guard? And center, we'll see kind of how it looks, but I love seeing, Skipper involved. I love seeing the 12 personnel, the jumbo sets. The jumbo sets have always really been a thing, and that wasn't something that John Morton got rid of. But I feel like we just saw it a little bit more frequently in that game against the Commanders. But a lot of it will be David Montgomery for me to watch on offense. Going to the defensive side of the football, obviously we don't know if Kirby Joseph's playing. We don't know if Arnold is playing. Hopeful that they do. Could we see Malcolm Rodriguez come back? Not exactly sure, but it seems like he might be back. We'll see.
He may. This matchup, it strikes me that Derek Barnes has been good. He's been really good for them in sort of an understated role. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's not the best way to put it. Particularly because I'm not even sure what understated means right now. I'm delusional. It just, I don't know that the Lions are going to line up and take their front four and say, yep, we're going to somehow manage to take Aiden Hutchinson, as a D end, as a lined up wide D end, and he's going to beat your offensive tackle one-on-one. I don't know that it's quite that easy. And then it's the Jalen Hurts problem. He's very difficult to get to the ground.
Yeah.
I could see Barnes knifing through and surprising Hurts in some ways, like he has over the course of this season, but also running him down a little bit because he's very athletic, right? So I think that this is going to be one of those games where a guy like Barnes is going to have to make plays. Jack Campbell's going to have to make plays on stuff in front of him and not allow Hurts to get to the edge and hurt them with his legs. Mm-hmm. You're right. We don't know exactly what's happening as far as injuries go, but I think that the Lions front 7 or 6, whatever you want to consider it to be, has to be effective enough at limiting what Jalen Hurts wants to do. Specifically on moving the chains with his legs and make it, obviously I think the Lions are going to be okay against the run. They might give up a big play or two to Saquon. Saquon's really good. Yeah. Their offensive line's really good. The Eagles are a really good team, right? So you would anticipate the Lions giving up some things, but But in the end, it would be nice to be able to force them into be a one-dimensional passing team and make them uncomfortable. And, I don't know.
No, I think you're right on with that. I mean, Derek Barnes has played well through the 9 games that he's played. He's got 4 sacks. He's third on the team in tackles. I mean, the top 3 tacklers are the linebackers, Campbell, Anzalone, and Barnes. So I think there's a lot of positives there with going with Barnes and like to your point, Barkley's going to probably make some plays, but can Derek Barnes help limit that? I think Jack Campbell and Anzalone, we kind of expect that, but can Barnes also be that guy, especially because he plays down on the line of scrimmage a little bit more often, and I think runs at times could maybe string that way if he's not playing in position. So I'm with you 100% there. I've got my eyes on Amik Robertson. I think, he played well against Justin Jefferson 2 weeks ago. I think he played well last week, but I think this is a big spot for him. A.J. Brown has not really been doing much. If he's tasked with covering him, he's got to minimize him to the best of his ability, and if it's not him on A.J. Brown, he's probably going over Devontae Smith, who's been the more productive receiver this year. So I think a lot of eyes and attention will be on Amik Robertson and what he can do. He's been making big plays. He's done a really good job, but I mentioned turnovers earlier. I would love to see a spot where Amik just gets one, get a pick, get the ball back into the offense's hands. I think it would be huge. And I think Jalen is bound for an interception here in this game or, some type of turnover because he plays, flawless football at times, limiting turnovers and things like that. But sometimes that can come back and bite you in a big spot. So let's hope this is the week that it happens. I just want to point this out to people for Jack Campbell, 82 tackles, which is top 10 in the league, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He is playing like an all-pro. Yep. He's becoming the player that I think that the Lions envision him to be. And if there's anybody probably next in line for an extension, I know everybody's talking Brian Branch, but I really think Jack Campbell is the next player to get that contract extension for the Lions. So we'll see. Would love to see Rodriguez and Arnold play in this game. Would obviously love to see Kirby Joseph, just not sure if that one's realistic just yet. But as we move along, the Lions are slowly starting to get people back. And we saw it with Aleem McNeil. We hopefully see it with Malcolm Rodriguez. This feels like a big spot for the defense, and maybe they just come out and shut them down. You never know. Crazier things have happened. What else you got? Anything?
Nothing. It's Wednesday afternoon, and I am fired up for this game. It's going to be really interesting to see it play out.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, man. I can't wait. Sunday Night Football, NBC, 8:20 start. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth. Can't wait to watch it. Of course, we will be on Twitter and X, whatever you call it, to talk about it. We'll be live tweeting it more than likely. I know I will. I probably overreact a little bit too much. At Russ NFL Draft and at Bischoff_Scott. Of course, you guys can rate, review, and subscribe to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all other podcast platforms. Of course, comment below on what you think about Dan Campbell taking over the offense, John Morton, maybe a little soft firing, a mutual agreement, whatever. But that's it. Week 11 preview, Week 10 review. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. This has been Bischoff and Brown on the Detroit Lions podcast.